Day 474 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzy here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a quick look at the Russian losses. So currently, Russia is sitting on more than 216,000 military personnel losses. Then in terms of hardware, 5 tanks, 5 APVs, and 10 artillery. Oh, and I'll also mention the bottom right today. There is never any shortage of miscellaneous vehicles or fuel tanks, which is always militarily important for cutting an invader's logistics capabilities. Then we'll head over to the map and we'll certainly start out on the front lines of the southeast Ukraine areas today, where Ukrainian counteroffensive operations have certainly yielded some additional town liberations. As we are seeing Ukrainian flags raising in a number of locations in recently liberated Ukrainian territory. And it's not just celebratory, but also nostalgic, I find it to be, as it instantly takes me back to the Kyiv days, the Kharkiv days, the Kherson days, all at different points in time throughout this war. So overall, Ukrainian forces liberated more than 100 square kilometers of land in just the past 36 hours alone. And just for some context, Russia's capture of Bakhmut is about 40 square kilometers or so. Only difference is, Russia didn't do that in 36 hours. It was actually closer to 10 months with about half the surface area. So starting off, having a look at some of these liberations. Now we have in Blohadatne, where a Ukrainian liberation took place, but also naturally in Neskruchne, which is just above that settlement. Then also even further down into the next settlement of Makarivka, which has been absolutely confirmed now, although not yet shown on this map. But also, of course, about 10 kilometers west of here in the settlement of Novodarivka. And bear in mind, this isn't just the AFU moving into contested regions. We're talking about full-blown liberations, which is either pushing back the Russian army to the rear lines of defense or forcing the Russian army to consider their second line of defense as their new first. Also around this location, the Russian army wasted no time blowing up yet another dam when things weren't going their way, as they took out the dam in this location at Mokry Yali, in the river there, flooding the area to prevent the advances of the Ukrainian forces. But hey, it's their playbook. Now, the Institute for the Study of War advised that Russian sources themselves claim that the Ukrainian forces have the tactical advantage in conducting assaults at night due to Western-provided superior night optic systems, which is something we've spoken about for quite a while now, really. It's no surprise, as Russia's equipment gets older and older, whereas Ukraine's equipment gets newer and newer, or at least modified and updated. So, technological disparity. And a true case study in the failings of the Russian invasion. So with all of these Ukrainian offensives taking place, it gets pretty easy to start to see that the Russian MOD was looking to consolidate frontline positions so as to not spread their defensive forces too thin, thus choosing to heinously breach the Kakhovka Dam, or rather blow up the dam. Which is something that, it turned out, they had their finger on the button for a long time now, as they prepared for the worst. And it still gets me how Russia adopted a law prohibiting the investigation of such dam events just 7 days prior to the actual blow-up of the dam. Just tactless. Without tact. Then moving across on the map to the Donbas, so as for Bakhmut today, a mini mushroom cloud was noted in occupied Bakhmut as something of the Russian forces was obliterated quite severely. And the AFU also conducted some additional successful counterattacks in the area of Bakhmut near the Berkivka reservoir. Zoom in a little bit for that one. Advancing about 250 meters, which it should be said, this is as important as any other moves on the southern front line right now. And again, politically devastating for the Russian leadership. Although, watch out for the Russian bots, because although these online Russian bots always find a way to not accept defeat, but not in any sort of a creative way, instead they just spew out anything that their handlers tell them to spew. But as for several attack vectors on the front line, it's still somewhat difficult to squeeze out any additional information on what's happening at the moment in real time. But that's kind of the point, really, isn't it? As who could say it better than the head of Ukraine's military intelligence, Bordanov, where he doesn't really say anything at all in this recently released Gemma video. A nice 30-second piece of footage with a slow pan in, which is pretty badass, let's be honest. And then elsewhere he mentioned about operational silence, saying, quote, "There will be more. Plans love silence," as he alludes to multiple additional upcoming Ukrainian counteroffensive actions. Then also in the Donbas, so Ukrainian forces hit a Russian supply dump in Olinka. So that is right here, just with indirect fire on this occasion, which is a strategically supportive location for supplying the Russian forces in the region, or was strategically supportive. Then somewhere else in the east, we see some appalling actions from the Russian forces as a Ukrainian soldier noted a leaf mine stuck to our little hedgehog friend. So just when you think Russian forces cannot get any more despicable, something like this happens. And so these igniting little boom devices are not that well known. So the PFM-1 aerial or artillery distributed mine, or hedgehog distributed mine in this case, is an old Soviet design. It looks like a leaf naturally, and is also known as a butterfly mine. And you know what? Nothing has changed much with these, not even the manufacturing year. So I really doubt that many of those mines are even able to work. But it certainly adds to the dick moves Russia still performs to this very day. Then moving to the south, another railway incident happened, this time in Russian-occupied Crimea. So according to multiple Russian sources, the tracks were blown up near Kirovskoy, damaging the locomotive of a freight train. The tracks connected to the cities of Kerch and Jankoy, so not ideal for Russian logistics. Oh, plus in Crimea, so someone blew a large hole into the radome of the Russian army radar post near Mayak in Crimea. So I'll zoom right in, and it's hiding, there it is, hiding right there. But zoom back out again for a bit of context on that one. And it was probably in use, so it's about time. And let's get a quick feel for the distance to the closest mainland of Ukraine. So let's say here in Odessa somewhere, 175 kilometers, so potentially a Storm Shadow missile, for instance. Then it's a bit of a quicker video for today, so we'll start off with some news. So 95 Ukrainian POWs in Russian captivity have been swapped with captured Russian POWs in Ukraine. And you know, I've seen a lot of footage now related to these types of things from the past where Ukraine extends the hand of compassion and kindness to those captured Russian soldiers in captivity. And you all know the line, violence begets violence and hate begets hate, as the type of humane treatment Ukraine gives to these Russian POWs absolutely must in some measure or magnitude cause some of the released Russian POWs to be given the opportunity to see things and experience things, being treated with dignity. So being experiencing things differently, which flies completely in the face of every narrative that the Russian system crams down their throats about Ukrainians. See, you can extinguish a Russian soldier, sure, yeah, but or you can do something so much more powerful, which is to extinguish their poisoned minds from all of the lies and false propaganda that they've been constantly subjected to. As many, if not all, have been told that all Ukrainians are just flat out barbarians. And so instead, these Russian POWs get humanely treated, not to mention the healthcare they get, which is the proof that their minds cannot deny that something is off, something is different, something is wrong. And even if or when some of them do eventually get recycled back into the Russian army's front lines, you're then starting to deal with some of the most low morale soldiers that you can find anywhere on the face of the planet. Then moving on to some of the lighter side of things today. So we've got a Ukrainian drone operator here, and well, looks like a successful hit, which is obviously, it's all quite a new type of warfare now, isn't it? And is something that Ukraine will undoubtedly be exporting their know-how, knowledge, experience to the world for after this war is over. Then in a super quick funny to round it all off for today, guys. So you may remember one of yesterday's funnies about a Swiss voting stand, which made Putin unhappily swallow a vote against purchasing Russian oil. Well, that stand didn't last too long, as some probable Russian expat saw fit, with his poisoned mind at that, to take it out with a hammer. So, as always, a real class act right there. So, thanks for watching today, guys. I've had to mix it up a bit with what I do. Things are changing quite constantly, so I'm keeping updated just before recording the video. So, yeah, bear with me, or bear with this counteroffensive in the upcoming days and weeks. We'll see how it goes. It's all looking quite promising, obviously, at the moment. Not just my words as well, but also the words of the Ukrainian commanders throughout the regions. And we are actually expecting an upcoming offensive, not one that's not related to Bakhmut per se, in the Donbas, surely the central, possibly northern Donbas. So definitely see how that pans out soon. So thanks again for watching, guys. Please leave a comment, subscribe, hit that like button, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.